أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: لا يغتب بعضكم بعضا أيحب أحدكم أن يأكل لحم أخيه ميتا فكرهتموه. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One of the sins that most people commit, and they have a hard time avoiding them, is ghiba, backbiting. And it's very difficult because every day when we have interaction with different people and when we socialize, it's very natural to bring up other people's names and talk about them. So backbiting is something that is very difficult to avoid, especially for women. You know, women, it's their treat, and if they don't do ghaiba or backbiting, their day doesn't go well in that sense. And it's a very big challenge for women indeed. So what we should know, of course we know that it's not okay, everyone knows it's bad thing to do and it's haram, but what could we do? What are the effects they have on us? And what could we do about it? Is there a solution to all these sins that have been increased all these years? What can we do about them? Just for a reminder, we would like to talk about this issue just to maybe help us try, not as much as we could, try to avoid backbiting and doing ghaiba, inshaAllah ta'ala. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Quran describes backbiting and doing ghaiba as eating the flesh of your brother, the one you're backbiting, while he is dead. And says the Quran asks, do you like to eat someone's flesh off their dead corpse? Of course you don't like that. Backbiting is the same thing you're doing. You're eating their flesh. It's cannibalism. And if you could imagine and picture that, that's not a pleasant scene. But what is the penalty of doing ghaiba and backbiting? The hadith says that the person you backbite and do ghaiba will receive your good deeds and you will receive his bad deeds. On the day of judgment, you see in your good deeds and a'mal that you have many bad deeds you haven't committed. It says you drank alcohol and wine and you did this and that, and you say, oh Allah, I have never drunk a drop of wine or alcohol or beer. Why is it written here? They say, well, you have backbited and done ghiba to someone that has. So his sins were different from yours, so you see a good variety in the sins, some things you haven't done. So how could we undo this? That's going to be a big problem. How can we undo this? The Imams tell us that, first of all, try to ask the person for forgiveness. But that is also a problem, because sometimes if you tell him that I said this about you to your enemy, to one that opposes you or someone you don't like, then of course he won't like that. I mean, if he has a big heart, he will forgive you and he will say thank you, but don't do it again. But that will maybe not happen. So it's a big risk. Telling like your best friend that I said this about you will not make it happy, and maybe he'll cut you off. It will cause a problem in your relationship with your friend. So that is an issue. Telling him and asking him for forgiveness is not easy. But sometimes there are ways, like when you're going on a trip, you're going to your country, and you say, please, I mean, like we say in Iran, halalam kon, I'm going to like Karbala, and if there was anything between us, please forgive me. Generally, not a specific issue about a moment or about something you said. You just say it in a general way, and that won't make him feel bad about you. So that's one way. But another way, which is easier, and I mean we have to try all the ways we could, is to do istighfar for that person. To ask Allah for forgiveness for that person. Because when you ask Allah for forgiveness, then Allah will forgive that person, and that person will forgive you on the day of judgment. When you do something good for them, on that day when they confront you with him or her, they would know that you've done some good deeds for them. Either you've done a good deed and asked Allah to give the ajr and thawab to that person. You say, oh Allah, I will do this good deed and I want you to reward him. That person I've done ghibah and I've backbited. Give it to him, the thawab and ajr and reward, give that to that person. So he will forgive you when he finds out what your intention was. Because your intention was that you want him to forgive you, and he would do so. God will ask him to do so. And so you do istighfar, you ask Allah for forgiveness, or you do good deeds and send the thawab to that person. So these are ways we could make up for what we have done and the persons we have backbited. And but how can we avoid it? There's another problem and issue that avoiding it is very difficult. I mean, maybe you're not the one talking about someone or backbiting, but you're in a discussion that the other person is talking to you and he's the one backbiting. And the hadith says that even if you listen, then you are guilty, even by listening. That makes it very difficult to avoid. Because you don't want to backbite, but the one you're speaking to is backbiting and doing ghibah. And maybe some people that want to be more religious, want to show themselves religious and holy, they would say when they want to backbite, they would say, well, I don't want to backbite. I don't want to do ghibah, but this guy, what he did? So he makes it okay when he says that in the beginning, right? I don't want to backbite. I don't want to do ghibah, but he did this, he did that. So that makes it okay. And when you hear it your conscience says, okay, it's okay, he's not going to do ghibah, but he is. So what you have to do, our narrations say, is that you will have to defend him. Defend him in a general way. Like saying, well, no one's perfect. Me and you, we both have faults and mistakes and sins. Nobody's perfect. In any sense and any way you could, you have to, or either stop that person, tell him, look, I won't listen to this. Or either you have to defend that person, he's doing ghibah and backbiting. So you have to avoid listening too, not only talking about other people. And that's a very difficult challenge for everyone. But there are some exceptions for backbiting. There are some exceptions. I'll name some of them after as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When someone is asking you your opinion about someone, he wants to begin a partnership in business. He asks you, is this a good, fair guy? Is he righteous? Can I rely on him? You have to tell him whatever concerns that business, whatever he wants to do. When consulting, mushawara, if someone comes to you and he wants advice about a certain person in any aspect, يُشَاوِرُكَ فِي شَخْصٍ. When he's asking about that person, you have to tell him whatever you know. If it's marriage, they ask you about your friend, you tell them whatever you know. And that is a responsibility on your shoulders to do so. You cannot hide any details, because the issue of marriage and anything is a very important decision in life. One day, an old man came to me and he asked me about one of my classmates. I didn't know anything about that person. Just one incident, one thing I knew about him. I mean, one incident happened between us. And he asked me, this guy has come and asked my daughter's hand. So, do you know anything about it? I've heard he's your classmate. And I was worried, and I said, what should I say? I know one thing. Once I was talking to him and asking him a question, and suddenly he got angry and he started, talking loudly and said, leave me alone, what's your problem? I want to study, stop bothering me, stop asking so many questions. And I was confused. Why did he act like that? Why was this reaction, it came from him. So then I told this to that man, and he said, yes, I have heard that he has some problems. He's sick, and he has nerve problems, and he gets angry very fast. But now that you've told me, I am sure about it. I wasn't sure that was true. I heard he has some nervous problems, but now you've confirmed it. So telling about people, even if it's a close friend or a brother, you have to say it when it comes to issues like business, marriage. You tell them whatever you know. Even the smallest details that have an effect on that relationship would have it. You have to tell it. Even if
Only if you're asked.
Yes?
Only if you're asked.
If you're asked, yes.
So you don't volunteer the information if you're not asked.
No, you don't have to do that. If you feel sorry for them, okay, but you don't have to. It's not an obligation. Only if you're asked, you have to tell them whatever you know about that person. Another exception is when you're trying to do nahi anil munkar, and you're trying to stop that person from doing a sin, and you have to tell his father and tell him that your son is doing this and that. We don't encourage on telling about other people's mistakes. No. If your intention is pure and you want to help him out, you don't have any enmity or hate towards him. You just want to help him. So you tell his brother or a friend or his father that, look, if we have to do something about this guy, your son or daughter, and if that helps, of course, because nahi anil munkar, the condition is that you could help him, you could do something about it and stop that person from committing a sin. Another exception in ghiba is tadallum, when someone has oppressed you and you've been oppressed in any aspect. He's taken your money, he won't give you your share, then you have the right to announce it publicly to people who know him. Allah says in the Quran, لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء إلا من ظلم. Allah does not like to talk bad about others, only those who are madloom and are oppressed and injustice has been done to them. If you're madloom, your rights are violated, you could talk about that zalim, the oppressor, and tell people, oh, this guy is doing this to me. I've been oppressed. I am mazloom. Tadallum is okay, even if it's ghaibah. And we have other examples, like, for instance, that man who, if he commits a sin publicly in front of everyone and he's not ashamed of it. You know, that guy that drinks in our gatherings, or the guy that smokes. Oh, smoking is not a sin, but it's maybe some people don't like their wife to know, so they smoke secretly. But no, someone smokes publicly, and you say, you know, the guy that's smoking, you know about him. So you could describe that fault or mistake or sin if he does it publicly, because he doesn't care if anyone knows. And other issues that I think that would be enough for now. So there are some exceptions of ghiba, and ghiba is to tell something true. Some people, when they do ghiba and they backbite, they say immediately, and I'm not lying, it's true. So he's bringing an excuse. I'm not lying about this person. That's not an excuse. But if it's lying, then it's tuhma, right? You're accusing him. That's the sin of tuhma, and accusing is much, much more than just backbiting. So tuhma is much more difficult. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, من آذى مؤمنا ولو بشطر كلمة جاء يوم القيامة مكتوبا بين عينيه آيسا من رحمة الله. Whoever hurts a mu'min, either their feelings, with words, whoever hurts a mu'min with his words or her words, even if it's one word, on the day of judgment, you will see on his forehead, it is written that this man is hopeless of God's mercy. He has no hope in God's mercy. Ayasan min rahmatillah. Brothers and sisters, especially sisters, who talk more than men about others, if you hurt someone with your words, you know what the penalty is? No one should be hopeless of God's mercy. That's the biggest sin, right? To have an takuna ayasan min rahmatillah in this world, if someone has no hope to be forgiven. Allah says that is the biggest sin that He will not forgive. What is the sin He will not forgive? To be hopeless of His mercy and forgiveness. Even if you have killed 1 million human beings, God forbid, if you are Hitler or if you're Saddam, you have no right to be hopeless of Allah's forgiveness. Allah is that merciful. How can I not be hopeless when I have killed so many people? They say you have haqqul nas and haqqullah, the rights of people, the rights of Allah. Allah will forgive His rights. He won't forgive the rights of people that you have violated. How can I kill someone and not be hopeless? How? The hadith says that if you're not hopeless and ask Allah for forgiveness, then eventually Allah will ask those people for them to forgive you. It might take some 1,000 years in hell, but eventually, if you do tawbah, if you ask for forgiveness, if you repent, even after killing innocent people, then you have a chance of going to paradise, even if it takes 1,000,000 years in hell. But God doesn't want you to be hopeless and ayisam rahmatillah. So whatever sin you have committed, even if it's haqqun nas, the rights of people you have violated, you will have to endure the torment and adab. That's for sure. You will be under adab and torment and suffering and torture after your death, or maybe here. If you're a good person, it will start from here. You will see the torment here in this world, and if it's not enough, you will see the torment and adab and suffering in the afterworld. In limbo, barzakh, until the judgment day comes, you will be under adab and torment. And if it's still not enough, they will send you to hell. And if you do enter hell and the inferno, God forbid, it's not forever for some people. It's temporary for some. So God says the sin that He will never forgive is to become hopeless, to have no hope of God's forgiveness, because He has the ability to make other people forgive you. You've killed someone, He will give that person so many thawab and ajr and rewards until He forgives you. He says, okay, that's enough. I will forgive him, because God is giving him in exchange. But the question is, brothers and sisters, can we tolerate the torment and adab in limbo and akhirah? Can we take that? Can we be patient until the day of judgment comes? Of course we can't. We can't resist even for 1 minute and God's torment and adab. We can't resist. Let me tell you a story that is very effective and influential, and it changes some people, because this story is very surprising and weird in some aspects, and in other aspects it is very efficient and it's reliable. The source of this story is authentic, 100%. In the time of Mirza Hassan al-Shirazi, the Mirza, Mirzai Buzurg, the Mujaddid, that banned the tobacco companies, and he fighted, or he didn't fight, he boycotted the English companies that sold the tobacco, and he became famous for that fatwa and verdict he gave out, where he prohibited any use of the tobacco and tutun and tambak. So he became known by that name, Sahibut Tanbak, the person that prohibited the tobacco at the time of Nasr ad-Din Shah. And his fatwa was so powerful, and everyone, all the Shia were so obedient. Even in the Shah's palace, Nasr ad-Din Shah, when he was smoking the shisha, his wife, she came and she took the shisha and she broke it in front of him. He said, "What are you doing? How dare you do this? Who do you think you are?" He said, "Who do you think you are? You're nobody. The marja, our grand leader has said it's prohibited to smoke shisha. And who do you think you are? You have to obey him." So even in his palace, the Shah Nasr ad-Din, he couldn't avoid that. He couldn't smoke any tutun anymore, tobacco. So it was temporary, of course, just to make the English companies that the Shah had granted them, given them a grant to, so until they reached the state of bankruptcy, it was just temporary. Anyways, so the Mirza al-Mujaddid, Mirza Hassan Shirazi, was in Samarra at that time. The Hawza, he moved the Hawza to Samarra to protect the shrine of Imam Hassan al-Askari and Imam Ali al-Hadi, the two Imams. I believe he was foreseeing our time when those Imams will be left alone and their shrines will be blown up with no one to support and prevent that incident. I believe he was foreseeing this in the future, because there were no Shia in that area, in that city. no followers of Ahlul Bayt. The two Imams were left there amongst no followers and lovers. So he moved the Hawza from Najaf to Samarra just for the Shia to move to Samarra. So there would be a larger population of Shia in that city so they could keep their shrines. He was foreseeing this. He was in his management, in idara, he was like one of the greatest maraji in history, in Shia history. That's why they call him the Mujaddid, the reformer, the one that did things that were maybe new in that way. Anyways, the story is told by his grandson Mirza Abdullah Shirazi. Sahib al-Tambak, al-Mujaddid, Mirza Hassan, lived about more than 150 years ago, maybe less than 200 years ago. And his grandson, who became the Marja' al-A'la, the greatest Marja' after Burujerdi for a few months. After Ayatollah Burujerdi passed away, he became the Al-Marja' al-A'la, the greatest Marja' in the Shia, just for a temporary few months. He was the known one. Then he passed away. And Mirza Abdullah Shirazi, Mirza Abdul Hadi al-Shirazi, he tells this story to many people. Many people have narrated from that Marja', the grandson of the great Mirza al-Mujaddid. And they have narrated this story. So it's a very authentic story. There's no question about it. He says that in the time of my grandfather, when he was in Samarra, he had received two Iranian merchants, businessmen from Shiraz. He was from Shiraz. Two businessmen and merchants came from Shiraz to Samarra. And they had brought a large amount of money. One of them had brought much more than the other. And the money wasn't their money. They said, we have collected money from the people of Shiraz to help rebuild the shrines in Iraq. These are donations, charity from the people of Shiraz to rebuild the shrines. And they said, we want to go to Hajj. Before spending this money, we are going to Hajj in Mecca, and we will return here, and we will then go to the shrines and give the money to the shrines to rebuild them. We have an agenda, a plan. So the money, they said, where should we keep it? We will keep it with you. The money we'll put it with you until we come back, because it's a very large amount of money. And there were no banks at that time. So they couldn't trust anyone but the great Marja'. He said, this money is I haven't seen that much money before, and I can't keep this money. I don't have any place to keep it. It's too much. You have to go to my trusted treasurer, Al-Hajj Ja'far Amin. Yes, his name was Hajj Ja'far Amin, and this person was the treasurer and safekeeper. He trusted in him for the financial things were with him. The money was with him. Any khums would come, any zakat to the marja', he would keep it with him. He said, I trust this man. He's very pious, mu'min, muttaqi, muqaddas. He's a holy man. Everyone knows him to be a holy and religious and pious man. Keep the money with this man. I will talk to him, and he will find a place for that money. So he sends them to Hajj Ja'far Amin, and he says, okay, I'll find a place to bury the money, because the money is too large, I can't keep it in my house. I'll find a very safe place and bury it until you come back. So they give him the money, they go to Hajj, and they return back to Samarra, and they go to the Mirza and saying, okay, can you ask Hajj Ja'far to bring us our money? The Mirza Mirza Shirazi says that, well, Haj Ja'far has passed away. When you were gone, he passed away, he's dead. But no worries, he has a book, the records, they're all in that book, in that notebook, the book of account. He has written everything in it, and it's with his family, so we'll ask his family to bring the book, the notebook with him, so we could see where he put the money, because he writes where I put it. So he called his family, they brought his notebooks, and all the records were in there. One of the two merchants and businessmen, it was written that his money is hidden, it's this much, it's hidden in this place. But the other merchant who had the large amount of money and he had to bury it somewhere and hide it, it wasn't written in the book where it was. And they looked all the pages, there's no mention of this man's name. They asked them, does he have anything else that he has written? A will, another notebook, another book of records? They said, no, this is all he has. It's all here. So the merchant says to Mirza, what should we do? The Mirza tells them, well, I don't know. We'll have to look. They looked everywhere they could. They didn't find it. The Mirza says to the merchant, well, I'm sorry, but I have no fault in this. It's not my fault. And I can't give you that amount of money. I don't have that amount of money to give you. And this person's family doesn't have that much money. So no one has a fault here. And so no one could give that money to you in exchange. So I'm sorry. He says, sorry is not an answer. I can't, what am I going to say to the people? That wasn't my money. People want answers from me. I can't go back to my city, Shiraz, and saying I lost the money. It will ruin my reputation. You have to do something for me. So the Mirza thinks and says, well, I have only one solution. It may work. If you do it right, it may work. He says, what is it? He says, you will go to Najaf, to Wadi Salam, and you will, he's buried I don't know where he was buried, but the Mirza tells this merchant that when you go to Wadi Salam, the graveyard in Najaf, I want you to utter the words I will tell you. And you will summon his soul and you will ask him where he put the money. Could you do this? He said, yes, I will do anything you say. So the Mirza writes down a sentence and a word, a dua, a supplication, and he goes to Samarra, to Najaf, to that graveyard, Wadi Salam, and he says at the time of Fajr, you have to read this supplication, and after you read this dua, you call him by his name. You say, Haj Ja'far, and you will summon his soul, and you will have to ask him where he put the money. So when he goes, he does this. He reads the dua, and he calls out the name, Haj Ja'far, and there's no reply. And he said, maybe I didn't read it right. He reads it again and calls Haj Ja'far. There's no reply. He does it a third time and there's no reply. He says, I don't think it works. The Mirza, it's a weird thing to ask, but I don't think this thing works at all. So he comes back to the Mirza and he says that, this option didn't work. You have to look for another option. The Mirza said, it didn't work. Did you do it right? Did you call his name? He said, yes. He said, it can't be true. It can't be. It has to work. I am sure of it. He says, well, it didn't. He said, he thought and he lowered his head thinking, and he said, there's only one option left. I can't believe this, but if this is true, that you have called him and read the dua and nothing happened, then there's only one option left. And that is you have to go to Yemen, Wadi Barahut, and you will find him there. But that's not possible, because Wadi Barahut is where they keep the evil spirits, the bad people. Wadi Salam is for the mu'mineen, the spirits in limbo and barzakh. The hadith says they go to Wadi Salam. That is where they are. It's the temporary heaven they live in. But if they're bad, they go to Wadi Barahut in Yemen, in Hadramaut, a place called. That's where they keep the evil and bad spirits, the souls. They go there. So it's either here or there. There isn't a third option, a place. If he's not answering you in Wadi Salam, he must be in Barahut. But Hajj Ja'far was a good person. He was holy and muqaddas. I can't believe he's there. But if you want to try, you could go. He said, I will do anything that is needed. Just tell me where to go. He says, okay, I'll send one of my students and pupils with you. He will be with you. On the way, you go to Wadi Barahut and do the same thing I asked you. So he goes to Yemen with that scholar sent by Mirza Shirazi, and he goes there at the specific time that he's told, and he reads the dua and he calls out Hajj Ja'far. When he calls Hajj Ja'far, he sees that the desert of Wadi Barahut is filled with holes and furnaces of fire. He was the only one seeing, and the scholar with him, he couldn't see because he was reading the supplication and he was calling. He said, I saw furnaces of fire in that desert. And suddenly one of the furnaces opened and I saw a head of a person coming out. Someone's head, he came out of the furnace and fire, and it looked at me and he called me, what do you want from me? He said, are you Hajj Ja'far? He said, yes. He said, what happened to my money? He said, your money is in a place, I hid it, and I forgot to write it down. I mean, it's safe. I haven't stolen it or anything. I just forgot to write it down. But I'll give you this is the address. You will find it there. But the question was that, what are you doing here? You should be in Wadi Salam with the mu'mineen and the believers. What are you doing here? He said, go tell the Mirza that I am here because of the butcher and his wife. And then he went inside the furnace of fire and the tanur, and Hajj Ja'far, he fainted and he became unconscious of fear and terror of that sight, and he fell. So when he gained consciousness, this scholar that was with him, he said, what did you see? What happened? He said, I won't talk until we see Mirza Shirazi. So they went back to Samarra and he told him what he saw. He said, this is what he told me. And he said, my money is in this certain place. So they went and they found the money and it was safe. There was no problem. But Mirza was asking, what is the story of the butcher? Why is Hajj Ja'far our safekeeper and trustee in Wadi Barahut? Why is his soul there? Who is the butcher? They asked the family of Hajj Ja'far, do you know a butcher? Ghassab? Jazzar? Do you anyone? They said, well, we have one next door. He's our neighbor. We don't know anyone else. He said, well, tell him to come to me. I want to talk to him. So the man came to Mirza and the Mirza said, can I come to your house? He said, yes, of course. So they came to his house, and he is Arab, and he has, the hospitality is something that he will show. And the Mirza knows how the Arab culture and the rituals, and he standed by the door. He didn't enter his house. He said, I want to ask you a favor. He said, yes, anything, just come inside. He said, no, I want you to grant that favor and grant my wish. He said, yes, I will, just come inside. You're my guest, you can't stand by the door. He said, I won't come until you grant me my wish. He said, what is it? Tell me. He said, what do you know about Haj Ja'far Ami? He said, when I told him, said this name, he said, may Allah increase his adab minute by minute. May Allah keep him in hell, and may Allah do the worst things to this man. He said, why? He said, I don't want to talk about it. He said, but tell me, I want to know. So they enter the house, and he says, what do you have against him? He says that Haj Ja'far is our neighbor. We had a long story with him. He said, we have a daughter and he has a son. And Haj Ja'far wanted our daughter for his son. We had another friend that came from Mosul, and he was a shepherd. He would bring sheep for me, and I would slaughter them. I am the butcher. And we had a good connection with them. So one year, he brings his family, and they have a son too. And the shepherd tells me, tells me that, the woman they were talking last day, and they said maybe we could, have a marriage in the family between my son and your daughter. The shepherd's son and the butcher's daughter. He said, well, I have no problem. I'm okay with that. And, but we have to ask my daughter's, opinion, because, we can't just have her get married without her own will. Because according to Islamic law, the girl is the one that has to accept. She has to choose if she wants this suitor or not. It's her choice. So he says, I'll talk with my daughter. And they said, okay, I'll send you the answer. When you go back to Mosul, I'll write to you and send you the answer. And you could come. The next time you could come with your son. And inshallah, everything will go as planned. So they go back to Mosul, and the butcher is in Samarra with his wife. They talk with her daughter. The daughter says, well, I have no problem, and I'm okay with it. And the wife says, okay, and he writes to the shepherd in Mosul. He says, we're okay with your son to come as a suitor, and whenever you want, we're ready. So when he writes to him, the answer comes from Mosul to Samarra, and it's all about business. He doesn't mention the marriage. While this is happening, a few months pass by, and Haj Ja'far, as we said, he wanted this girl for his son, but the son doesn't want the girl. Haj Ja'far knows this is a good girl, but the son doesn't want her. So nothing happens between them. But this man is waiting for that shepherd to reply that we're going to come and we're going to ask for your daughter's hand. But nothing happens. Months pass by, and suddenly one day he asks him, when he comes to Samarra, he says that, we were talking about marriage, between our children. What happened? You're not answering, you're not giving an answer. What is it? He said, no, it's not important. We changed our minds, and it's not an important matter. He said, why? Suddenly you changed. You were so happy about this issue, and suddenly you've changed it. What happened? He said, no, it doesn't matter. Leave it be. He said, no, I want to know. Have you heard anything about us? He said, well, I can't say we heard a bad thing, but well, let me tell you, to be honest, we came and we, of course, when anyone wants to get married, they have to know about the other person, do some research and know about them. They have to ask friends, relatives, neighbors. And we came to this, your neighbor of yours. We heard from the people of Samarra that he is a holy man, muqaddas, and he's pious and muttaqi, and he says nothing but the truth. So we came to him and we asked that, what do you think about your neighbor's daughter? We want her for our son. And this pious man, he lowered in his head and he said, the neighbor, the daughter, he said, I don't know. And because he wanted the girl for his own son, he answered, he said, I don't know. But in the way he said, I don't know, he intentionally gave them the idea that I don't want to talk about them. The way he said, I don't know, was in a way they understood that this is not a good option. Forget about her. That was the way he said, I don't know. The issue wasn't about him lying, although that is a sin. The issue was that he said it in a manner that they knew that they should forget about this girl. Because they're neighbors, they know. It's like the story we said about Anas ibn Malik, when Amir al-Mu'mineen asked him, come and witness to these people what happened on that day in the time of the Prophet. And he said, I have forgotten. This man knew the neighbor. Everyone knows their neighbors. They should know about each other. And he says, well, I don't know, and in a way that I don't want to talk about it. So anyways, he said, I don't know, and we thought there's something he doesn't want to say because he's so muqaddas and pious and good. He doesn't want to do ghibah. He doesn't want to backbite. That's how pious he is. So we said, okay, this isn't a good option. We'll just forget about this girl. And then that was it. This is it, to be honest. And the butcher, I don't know what God wanted for them and what had Allah predestined for them, but subhanallah, a suitor, a khatib, never came to them again. After that, the butcher's son didn't come, and Hajj Ja'far's son didn't want her, and I don't know how, but no man came to ask this girl's hand. And the parents, every time they will remember what Hajj Ja'far has said, they will curse him and ask Allah to increase his torment. Just for saying, I don't know, in a way that changed their minds. So the Mirza, when he hears this, he says to the merchant, a businessman from Shiraz, he says, you want to do something good? He says, what? He says, you're a middle-aged man, and this girl is grown up, and she's a bit, she's old, and no one would come for her because maybe she's too old to get married at this age. So why don't you marry this girl? He says, well, I have no problem. That's okay with me. So I don't know if he was married before or not. He had other wives, but he was happy about it. He said, yeah, sure, why not? So he married this girl, and after that, he saw Hajj Ja'far in his dream, thanking him and telling, thank you for relieving me from this torment and adab and suffering and torture in the limbo and barzakh. You have saved my life. You have saved me from that torture in barzakh. So this story, which is very authentic, tells us that we have to be very, very careful about what we say about other people, hurting them, because if we do eventually go to heaven, but there is a limbo and barzakh and day of judgment and the hellfire, and there are all these time and place, enough time, we have enough time for Allah to purify us, to clean our sins, and we cannot tolerate and take 1 minute of that adab and torment on the day of judgment. We ask Allah to help us to be careful what we say about other people, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali. But subhanallah, some people you see and hear that when they die, they have a completely different life in the afterlife. Their situation is much different. There was a undertaker, a dafan in the city of Karbala called Haj Abdul Rida. And one of the maraja I heard from him say that he said, I asked this dafan, the undertaker, because he was an old man and his job was to bury people in the shrine of Imam Hussein. Those times they allowed people to be buried inside the shrine in the basement. And I asked him, you've done this job for years, you're an old man, and I want you to tell me something that I would like, something about this job you've done. Tell me any memory you have, good memories. One thing you would like to say to me. So he says, this undertaker, the dafan, tells this person, the marja, and says, well, one time something happened to me that I will never forget in the shrine of Imam Hussein. He said they brought an old lady, and I, as the undertaker and dafan, I took her in the basement and I put her in her grave, and suddenly I fainted. Well, the dafan is talking about this from other people. The narration is from those who were up inside the sahan, the shrine. He says that I went under to bury this woman, and people were waiting for me. It usually takes me 10 minutes to do all the rituals. 10 minutes is enough to do the talqeen and open her face. And they were waiting for me for half an hour or more. And they were worried, because usually it's very tight, that space. Only one person goes there. And they were waiting, and I wouldn't come up until they came down and they saw me fainted. They saw me unconscious. So they took me up and they threw water on my face and they asked me, what happened to you? He said, why? He said, you were unconscious on the ground. What happened? He said, I don't know, but I saw something very strange. I said, what did you see? He said, I want you to bring me the son of this lady. I want to ask him a question. So they brought the son. He said, has your mother what has she done for Imam Hussein? Has she done anything special? He said, no, nothing special. Isn't she like a speaker, a woman that will recite eulogy for Imam Hussein? Or is she mullaya? Does she recite masa'ib? Does she write for Imam Hussein? Does she write poems? Is she a poet? What is she? He said, no, nothing. Anything. What has she done? Does she done anything for Imam Hussein you could think of? He said, yeah, she used to do some things. But not that big. He said, what? What did she do? Tell me. He said, well, we are farmers in our village outside Karbala, and we were very poor. And we had a small land to farm on and to eat from that. And we were very poor and our food was very little. We would eat what we would harvest. And my mother, she would provide the food. We didn't have a father. She would provide our food. And what she would do was that 6 days of the week, we would eat from what we could provide. But one day in the week, Laylatul Jum'ah, on the eve of Friday, she would tell us that, oh, my children, today is the day that the Zawar of Imam Hussein come, and this is their share of the food. What we have, we give for them. So one day we wouldn't eat anything and we will go hungry, because she would give our foods for Imam Hussein's sake and for his love. We will become hungry, we would be hungry that day, eating nothing. The food will go for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and that is the only thing I could think of she would do. So what happened to you down there? He said, well, I was opening her face, because when you put the body on the ground, you have to open the face and put the cheek on the dirt, the soil. And he said, as I wanted to open her face, suddenly I saw the wall, towards Imam Hussein's shrine. Suddenly there was no wall. And all I could see was light. And I heard a voice, a figure. I saw a figure and I heard his voice. He said, Hajj Abdul Rida, we'll take it from here. We will take it from here. So you could imagine that serving Imam Hussein alayhi salam with what little you have, this will be what will happen to us inshallah ta'ala if we give whatever we have for Imam Hussein. This center, they have told me that they want to buy a new center, they're renting, and they want to buy a place. But it's difficult to pay the amount of money they need. And everyone is saving some money aside. They have plans want to buy a house or anything, their business. And giving that money for Imam Hussein's sake to buy a place here is difficult, and we can't give the money we worked so hard for easily. But whoever gives from what little they have, and they give what is dear for them, وَيُنْفِقُونَ مِمَّا يُحِبُّونَ, that is when you will see Imam Hussein inshallah after death. He will welcome you in the afterlife by giving what is so dear to you and what is difficult to give, because giving from extra money is not that hard, but giving from what little you have, that makes the ultimate sacrifice. And inshallah Sayyid al-Shuhada will repay us. And the hadith says, there's a hadith says that Musa alayhi salam, the Prophet Moses, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Oh Allah, بما فضلت أمة محمد على سائر الأمم. Why have you chosen the nation of Muhammad to be the best of nations? Moses alayhi salam is telling Allah about the last prophet. Why is he the best? He has the best followers. So Allah, He says, I فضلتهم. They have some qualities that other nations don't have. He names 10. One of those, he says, the Muslims, the followers of the last prophet, they have Ashura. They celebrate Ashura. They commemorate Ashura. Musa alayhi salam in the hadith says, what is Ashura, Ya Allah? He says it is the day that the grandson of the prophet is killed in the land of Karbala. So they describe how Imam Hussein alayhi salam was killed in a tragic way. And then Allah says to Musa, O Musa, whoever spends 1 dirham or dinar for Hussein, I will multiply them 70 times in this world. I will give barakah and bless that money 70 times, multiplied by 70 in this world, and I will forgive all their sins, and their place will be paradise, inshallah. So if you give $1, according to this hadith, said to Musa alayhi salam, Allah will bless that and give barakah to it and multiply it 70 times in this world. And that is only this world. You have the afterlife, and the day you see the Imam Hussein comes after your death, that is something we long for, insha'Allah ta'ala. So, brothers and sisters, on the 11th day of Muharram, when they were taking the captives, the Sabaya, Ahlul Bayt, from Karbala, and they were taking the women and children with Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam from Karbala to Kufa. On that day, Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam says, I was on the camel, and so was the other women and children. And the Imam narrates this. He says, لما قتل أبي وحملت حرمه ونساؤه على الأقتاب يراد بنا الكوفة. They were taking us to Kufa, and they brought us, that we crossed the battlefield where I saw my father and my brothers and my uncles laying on the sand dune of Karbala. فَجَعَلْتُ أَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِمْ صَرْعًا. I was looking at their bodies and corpses. وَلَمْ يُوَارَوْا. But they weren't buried. No one was burying them. فَيُعَظُّمُ ذَلِكَ فِي صَدْرِي. I couldn't take that. I was seeing my father and my brothers left. ويشتد لما أرى منهم فكادت نفسي تخرج. It was so difficult for me to see that scene that I was going to die of agony and grief. The Imam was so difficult for him to see his father in that situation. فكادت نفسي تخرج وتبينت ذلك مني عمتي زينب. And my aunt Zainab was looking at me. She saw me in a figure that she knew that I will pass away if I do this with myself. فقالت ما لي أراك تجود بنفسك يا بقية جدي وأبي وإخوتي. Why is it I see you doing this to yourself? Oh, the remaining one of my father and brothers, are you trying to kill yourself? Why are you doing this to yourself? فقلت وكيف لا أجزع ولا أهلع وقد أرى سيدي وإخوتي وعمومتي وولد عمي وأهلي مصرعين بدمائهم مرملين بالعراء. Oh, Aunt Zainab, how can I not be grief-stricken when I see my father and my cousins and my uncles and brothers? They are on the land left alone, and no one will bury them, and the sun is on their bodies. مسلبين لا يكفنون ولا يوارون ولا يعرج عليهم أحد ولا يقربهم بشر كأنهم أهل بيت من الديلم والخزر. They are left on the sand dune of Karbala as if they are not even Muslim, and they won't bury them. فقالت لا يجزعنك ما ترى لقد أخذ الله ميثاق أناس يجمعون هذه الأعضاء المتفرقة فيوارونها وينصبون لهذا الطف علما لقبر أبيك سيد الشهداء. Oh nephew, don't worry. There will be some people that will gather these bodies and bury them, and they will build a shrine on their bodies. A shrine will be built here, and it will never be demolished. ولا يدرس أثره ولا يعفو رسمه على كرول الليالي والأيام وليجتهدن أئمة الكفر وأشياع الضلالة في محوه وتطميسه فلا يزداد أثره إلا ظهورا وأمره إلا علوا. So the Sayyidah Zainab was trying to calm Imam Zain al-Abidin down. She calmed him down, and then she said to Baba Abdullah, she started talking to Imam Hussein, and she said بأبي المهموم حتى قضى بأبي العطشان حتى مضى بأبي من شيبته يقطر دما بأبي من جده رسول إله السماء فأبكت والله كل عدو وصديق. She said something to Imam Hussein that even the enemies cried. She said, may my life be ransomed for the one that died thirsty. May my life be ransomed for the one that blood is dropping from his beard. چون چاره نیست میگذارمت ای پاره پاره تن به خدا می سپارمت. Brother, I have no choice but to leave you here. I am taking to Kufa by force. So Sayyidah Zainab is talking to her brother's body. She sees a body in Karbala with no head. But when she goes to Kufa, she sees the head of Abi Abdullah on a spear with no body. So here she talks to the body like this. But what does she do when she sees the severed head of Imam Hussein in Kufa? فالتفتت زينب. She was giving a sermon in Kufa, in the streets of Kufa, while she was on the camel. فالتفتت زينب فرأت رأس أخيها. She looked and she saw suddenly her brother's head on a spear. Subhanallah, she had not seen her brother's head before Ashura. After Ashura, she didn't see her brother's face anymore. When the last time she saw her brother's face was it when it was attached to his body. And now is the first time that she sees her brother's head without his body. رأس زهري قمري ووجهه قمر طالع. She saw a face like the moon. What did she do? فنطحت جبينها بمقدم المحمل حتى رأينا الدم يخرج من تحت قناعها وأومأت إليه وجعلت تقول. She said to her brother, يا هلالا لما استتم كمالا غاله خسفه فأبدى غروبا. Oh my moon and crescent, you turned into an eclipse before you could become a full moon. ما توهمت يا شقيق فؤادي كان هذا مقدرا مكتوبا. Oh brother, I never thought I would see this day. Then she noticed Ruqayyah, the little daughter of Imam Hussein, the 4-year-old girl. She noticed Ruqayyah staring at her father's severed head with grief and agony. She said to her brother, يا أخي فاطمة الصغيرة كلمها فقد كاد قلبها أن يذوبا. Oh brother, talk to your daughter Fatima, talk to your daughter Ruqayyah, for her heart is about to melt. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والممتثلين لأوامره إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات. الفاتحة مع الصلوات.